From a humble shepherd to a legendary king. Betrayal, triumph, love, and war, this is the untold story of King Dawad like you've never seen before. Stay to the end to uncover the shocking twist that shaped history forever. This is part 1 of the life of the shepherd boy, Dawad, who became King Dawad over the nation of Yasharahla, the only nation with an everlasting covenant with Yahuah. I repeat, Yasharahla is the only nation with an everlasting covenant with Yahuah. To honor the authenticity of this story, we will use the original Paleo-Hebrew names of the people and places, just as they were known in ancient times. You'll hear, Dawad not David, Shaawl not Saul, Yashay not Jesse, Yasharahla not Israel, Bethlehem not Bethlehem. This brings us closer to the true history of Yasharahla and its people. The legacy of King Dawad, why his story matters to Yasharahla. To understand the heart of Yasharahla, we must first understand the life of its greatest king, Dawad. His story is not just history, it is a blueprint for our identity, our strength, and our future. Dawad was chosen by Yahuah to lead, not because of his status, but because of his heart. His unwavering faith, courage, and obedience is foundational to Yasharah's covenant relationship with Yahuah. Dawad was a warrior, a poet, and a man after Yahuah's own heart. Today, the awakened nation of Yasharahla faces trials, just as Dawad did. Yet his songs, his Dahayalayim, aka Psalms, remind us that even in exile, in battle, or in distress, Yahuah is our refuge. His life is an example to Yasharahla of resilience, leadership, and the power of righteous rulership under the Most High. Dawad's legacy is not just history, it is prophecy. The throne of Dawad will be established forever, as Yahuah has promised. His story is the key to our restoration, our unity, and our future reign under divine order. The life of King Dawad is not just a tale of the past, it is our inheritance, our example, and our destiny. Let us remember. Let us rise. Let us reclaim our heritage. The story of King Dawad, the legacy of Yasharahla. Now, let's journey back to the 10th century BCE and witness the life of King Dawad as it was meant to be told. Before he was a king, he was a shepherd. Before he was a legend, he was an outcast. This is the incredible journey of King Dawad, warrior, poet, and ruler chosen by Yahuah. From slaying giants to ruling a nation, his story is filled with triumph, betrayal, and redemption. But how did a simple boy rise to become the greatest king of Yasharahla? Stay with us as we reveal the story of King Dawad as never told before. Shaawl came to anoint Yasharah's next king. Shaawl, 1 Samuel 16:1-12. 1. And Yahuah said to Shaawl, How long are you going to mourn for Shaawl, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Yasharahla? Fill your horn with oil, and go, I am sending you to Yashay from Bethlehem. For I have seen among his sons a sovereign for myself. 2. And Shaawl said, How would I go? When Shaawl hears it, he shall kill me. And Yahuah said, Take a heifer with you, and say, I have come to slaughter to Yahuah. 3. And you shall invite Yashay to the slaughtering, then let me show you what to do. And you shall anoint for me the one I say to you. 4. And Shaawl did what Yahuah said, and went to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, Do you come in peace? 5. And he said, In peace. I have come to slaughter to Yahuah. Set yourselves apart, and you shall come with me to the slaughtering. And he set Yashay and his sons apart, and invited them to the slaughtering. Shaawl carefully examined Yashai's eldest sons, yet none were chosen, as they did not meet Yahuah's divine criteria for kingship. 6. And it came to be, when they came, that he saw Eliab and thought, The anointed of Yahuah is indeed before him. 7. But Yahuah said to Shaawl, Do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have refused him, for not as man sees, for man looks at the eyes, but Yahuah looks at the heart. 8. Then Yashay called Abiah and Adiab, and made him pass before Shaawl. And he said, Neither has Yahuah chosen this one. 9. Next Yashay made Shammah pass by. And he said, Neither has Yahuah chosen this one. 10. And Yashay made 7 of his sons pass before Shaawl. And Shaawl said to Yashay, Yahuah has not chosen these. 11. And Shaawl said to Yashay, Are these all the young men? And he said, There remains yet the youngest, and see, he is tending the sheep. And Shaawl said to Yashay, Send and bring him, for we do not turn round till he comes here. 12. And he sent and brought him in. And he was ruddy, with bright eyes, and handsome. And Yahuah said, Arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Shaawl did not hesitate in picking out Dawad. The moment he recognized Yahuah chose the humble Dawad, and not the strong, he acted with unwavering certainty. Shaawl anointed Dawad, and the spirit of Yahuah came upon him with power. 13. And Shaawl took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the spirit of Yahuah came upon Dawad from that day and onwards. And Shaawl arose and went to Ramah. 14. And the spirit of Yahuah turned aside from Shaawl, and an evil spirit from Yahuah troubled him. 15. And the servants of Shaawl said to him, Look, now, an evil spirit from Elohim is troubling you. Shaawl, afflicted by a tormenting spirit sent upon him by Yahuah, desperately sought relief from his suffering. 16. Please, let our master command your servants who are before you, to seek out a man who is a skilled player on the lyre. And it shall be that when the evil spirit from Elohim is upon you, that he shall play with his hand, and you be well. 17. And Shaawl said to his servants, Please get me a man that plays well, and bring him to me. 18. And one of the servants answered it and said, Look, I have seen a son of Yashay from Beth-Laham, who knows how to play, a brave one, and a man of battle, and skilled in words, and a handsome man. And Yahuah is with him. 19. So Shaawl sent messengers to Yashai, and said, Send me your son Dawad, who is with the sheep. 20. And Yashai took a donkey loaded with bread, and a skin of wine, and a young goat, and sent them by his son Dawad to Shaawl. Verse 21. And Dawad came to Shaawl and stood before him. And he loved him greatly, and he became his armor-bearer. Verse 22. Shaawl therefore sent to Yashai, saying, Please let Dawad stand before me, for he has found favor in my eyes. Verse 23. And it came to be, whenever the evil spirit from Elohim was upon Shaawl, that Dawad would take a lyre and play it with his hand. Then Shaawl would become refreshed and well, and the evil spirit would leave him. In Shamwala, 1 Samuel 17, the armies of Yasharahla and the Philistines stand on the brink of battle when an unexpected hero emerges. Dawad, a young shepherd and future king, steps forward and, in a stunning twist, slays the mighty Golyath, turning the tide of history in an unimaginable way. Let's read how scripture depicts this epic historical event. 1. And the Philistines had gathered their armies for battle, and came together at Shawaka, which belongs to Yahuah, and encamped between Shawaka and Izakak, and Akat Damayas. 2. And Shaawl and the men of Yasharahla were gathered and encamped in the valley of Allah, and drew up in battle array to meet the Philistines. 3. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Yasharahla stood on a mountain on the other side, with the valley between them. 4. Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines, named Golyath, from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. 5. And a bronze helmet was on his head, and he was armed with a scaled armor, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. 6. And bronze shin guards on his legs, and a bronze spear between his shoulders. 7. And the wood of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his iron spearhead weighed 600 shekels, and a shield-bearer went before him. 8. And he stood and shouted to the armies of Yasharahla, and said to them, Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and you the servants of Shaawl? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. 9. If he is able to fight with me, and shall strike me, then we shall be your servants. But if I overcome him and shall strike him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. 10. Then the Philistines said, This day I shall reproach the armies of Yasharahla. Give me a man, and let us fight together. 11. And Shaawl and all Yasharahla heard these words of the Philistine, and they were broken down and in great fear. 12. Now Dawad was the son of that Aparaim of Bayath-laham in Yahuah, whose name was Yashay, and he had 8 sons, and in the days of Shaawl the man was old among men. 13. And the 3 oldest sons of Yashay went, they had gone to follow Shaawl to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and his second Abianadab, and the third Shemot. 14. And Dawad was the youngest. And the 3 oldest followed Shaawl. 15. But Dawad went and returned from Shaawl to feed his father's sheep at Bayath-laham. 16. And for 40 days the Philistine drew near, morning and evening, and took his stand. 17. Then Yashay said to his son Dawad, Please take to your brothers an ayapa of this dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp. 18. And take these 10 cheeses to the commander of the 1,000, and see how your brothers are, and bring back news of them. 19. For Shaawl and they and all the men of Yasharahla were in the valley of Allah, fighting with the Philistines. 20. And Dawad rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with a herdsman, and took and went as Yashay had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the army was going out to the fight, and they shouted for the battle. 21. And Yasharahla and the Philistines drew up in battle array, army against army. 22. And Dawad left his supplies in the hand of the keeper of the supplies, and ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. 23. And he was speaking with them, and saw the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Golyath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines. And he spoke according to the same words, and Dawad heard. 24. And all the men of Yasharahla, when they saw the man, ran from him and were in great fear. 25. And the men of Yasharahla said, Have you seen this man who has come up? For he has come up to reproach Yasharahla. And it shall be that the man who strikes him, the sovereign is going to enrich him with great riches, and give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption in Yasharahla. 26. And Dawad spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, What shall be done for the man who strikes this Philistine, and shall take away reproach from Yasharahla? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should reproach the armies of the living Elohim? 27. And the people answered him according to this word, saying, This is what is done for the man who strikes him. 28. And Eliab his oldest brother heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's displeasure burned against Dawad, and he said, Why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. 29. And Dawad said, Now what have I done? Was it not but a word? 30. And he turned around from him toward another and said the same word. And these people answered him a word like the first word. 31. And when the words which Dawad spoke were heard, they reported them to Shaawl, and he sent for him. 32. And Dawad said to Shaawl, Let no man's heart fail because of him, your servant is going, and shall fight with this Philistine. 33. And Shaawl said to Dawad, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of battle from his youth. 34. Then Dawad said to Shaawl, Your servant has been tending sheep for his father, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock. 35. I went out after it and struck it, and rescued it from its mouth. And when it rose against me, I took hold of it by its beard, and struck it and killed it. 36. Your servant has stricken both lion and bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, seeing he has reproached the armies of the living Elohim. 37. And Dawad said, Yahuah, who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he does deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Shaawl said to Dawad, Go, and Yahuah be with you. 38. And Shaawl dressed Dawad with his garments, and he put a bronze helmet on his head, and put a coat of armor on him. 39. And Dawad girded his sword over his garments, and began to go, but he had not tried them. Then Dawad said to Shaawl, I am not able to go with these, for I have not tried them. So Dawad took them off. 40. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the wadi, and put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. 41. And the Philistine came, and began drawing near to Dawad, and the man who bore the shield went before him. 42. And when the Philistine looked about and saw Dawad, he despised him, for he was a youth, and ruddy and of handsome appearance. 43. And the Philistine said to Dawad, Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed Dawad by his mighty ones. 44. And the Philistine said to Dawad, Come to me, and I give your flesh to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. 45. But Dawad said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of Yahuah of hosts, the Elohim of the armies of Yasharahla, whom you have reproached. 46. This day Yahuah shall deliver you into my hand, and I shall strike you and take your head from you, and give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines today to the birds of the heavens and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth know that Elohim is for Yasharahla. 47. And all this assembly know that Yahuah does not save with sword and spear, for the battle belongs to Yahuah, and he shall give you into our hands. 48. And it came to be, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet Dawad, that Dawad hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. 49. And Dawad put his hand in his bag and took out a stone, and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. 50. Thus Dawad was stronger than the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him, and there was no sword in the hand of Dawad. 51. Then Dawad ran and stood over the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of its sheath, and killed him, and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. 52. And the men of Yasharahla and Yahuah arose and shouted, and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Iquarawan. And the wounded of the Philistines fell along the way to Sha'arayim, even as far as Gath and Iquarawan. 53. Then the children of Yasharahla turned back from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camps. 54. And Dawad took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Yasharahla, but he put his weapons in his tent. 55. And when Shaawl saw Dawad going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As your being lives, O sovereign, I do not know. 56. And the sovereign said, Ask whose son this young man is. 57. And when Dawad returned from the striking of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Shaawl with the head of the Philistine in his hand. 58. And Shaawl said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And Dawad said, The son of your servant Yashay from Beth-Laham. And so, with just a sling and a single stone, Dawad, the shepherd boy, did what no seasoned warrior dared. He struck down the mighty Golyath, bringing victory to Yasharahla. But Dawad's journey is only beginning. Shaawl should be rejoicing, but instead, something stirs deep within him, jealousy. The women are singing, Shaawl has slain his thousands, but Dawad his 10,000s. These words set off a dangerous chain of events. Shaal's heart turns bitter. The victory that should unite them begins to divide them. Shaal's envy grows. His fear of Dawad deepens. A new enemy is rising, not from the Philistines, but from within Yasharah's own camp. What happens next? Will Dawad survive the wrath of the jealous king? Find out in part 2 as we continue the untold story of Dawad's rise, from celebrated hero to hunted fugitive. Don't miss it. Subscribe now and click the bell so you never miss an episode. Like, comment, and share to help spread the truth of Yahuah's word.